Martyrdom at Bagumbayan, Chapter 25. Hello classmates, good morning. Meet the group DAGUIL, QUEENNIE, Kent R, De Luna, Hazelle, Auntie, and Villanueva, ASSEL, and C. Learning outcomes. Our first goal, discuss the last hour of Rizal. Our second goal, describe the death march to Bagumbayan and the martyrdom of hero. Our third goal, explain the aftermath of a hero martyr's death. Introduction. After being court-martialed, Rizal returned to his cell in Fort Santiago to prepare his rendezvous with destiny. During his last 24 hours on earth, from 6 o'clock a.m. of December 29 to 6 o'clock a.m. of December 30, 1896, he was busy meeting visitors, which includes his family and friends. He was also able to write his last poem, his last contribution for the emancipation of the Filipino people. And here's the results: prison cell. Last hours of Rizal, December 29, 1896, at 6 o'clock a.m., Captain Rafael Rodriguez read Rizal's death sentence. He will be shot at the back by firing squad by at 7 o'clock a.m. at Bagumbayan. At 7 o'clock a.m., Rizal was moved to the prison chapel where he spent his last moments. His first visitors were Jesuit priests. At 7:15 a.m., Rizal reminded Father Luis Visa, the statuette of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, whom he carved as a student in Ateneo. At exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, Rizal knew how he would be executed and where would it take place. After an hour, he was then moved to the place where he would be staying. This place was thought to be the last place he would found alive. There he have his visitors, in which his very first acquaintances was the Jesuit priest. 15 minutes later, with Father Visa, he reminded that he wanted to see his carved statue of the Sacred Heart. These have been his carvings when he was in Ateneo. At 8 o'clock a.m., Rizal had a breakfast with Father Antonio Rosell. After breakfast, his attorney, Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade, came. At 9 o'clock a.m., Father Federico Fara arrived. Rizal reminded the priest of his earlier prophecy about Rizal. At 10 o'clock a.m., more Jesuit priests had visited him. After then, he was interviewed by Santiago Maiteix for the newspaper El Heraldo de Madrid. At 8 o'clock a.m., Rizal was served a light breakfast. He took his breakfast with Father Rizal. Next, their attorney Lieutenant de Andrade made his way into Rizal's cell. At 9 a.m., Father Faura came and they tackled about Rizal's prophecy. Senior Andrade left the cell. Rizal have been talking to a lot of Jesuit priests about religious matters, it seems. Afterwards, he is interviewed for newspaper establishment. 12 o'clock to 3:30 p.m., Rizal was left alone in his cell. He took his lunch and continued writing his farewell poem, which he hid in an alcohol cooking stove. He also wrote his letter to Professor Blumentritt. At 3:30 p.m., Father Vicente Balaguer returned to his cell and discussed with Rizal his retraction letter. At 4 o'clock p.m., Teodora Alonso visited him. They had a very emotional encounter. Rizal gave the alcohol cooking stove to Trinidad, which contains his farewell poem. Several priests have visited him afterwards. After having his lunch, a poached egg and a little chicken, he have been alone and wrote for a long time. His farewell speech, perhaps. He hid his farewell poem inside the cooking stove, as well as writing a letter to be sent to Professor Blumentritt. By 3 p.m. onwards, Father Balaguer discussed to Rizal his retraction letter, although it is said that at first he refused to sign a retraction letter. By 4 p.m., he had an affectionate bond with Teodora Alonso. The cooking stove in which he hid his farewell poem, he handed it to Trinidad. Thereafter, More priests visited him. At 6 o'clock p.m., Don Silvino Lopez, Dean of the Manila Cathedral, visited him. At 8 o'clock p.m., Rizal had his last supper. He told Captain Dominguez that he forgave his enemies, including the military judges. 2 hours passed by. An important person have seen him, Don Lopez, the Dean of Manila Cathedral. Another 2 hours spent. He have his very last dinner alive. He also spoke to Captain Dominguez, saying that he already exonerated everyone against him, even those in the military. Mi Ultimo Adios, in English, My Last Farewell, is a poem written by Filipino propagandist and writer Dr. Jose Rizal before his execution by firing squad on December 30, 1896. The piece was one of the last notes he wrote before his death. It is a significant evidence that Rizal didn't retract. It is a poem that tells us how beautiful the Philippines is and how Rizal wants us to learn from our past and to see the truth about how the world view us. At 9:30 p.m., Rizal was visited by Don Gaspar Centano, Fiscal of the Royal Audience de Manila. At 10 o'clock p.m., the draft of the retraction letter sent by the anti-Filipino Archbishop Bernardo Nozaleda was given by Father Balaguer to Rizal for his signature. He had rejected it. Rizal received the retraction letter from Archbishop Nozaleda handed by Father Balaguer, in which again he rejected it. Okay, let's proceed to the next reporter.
Hello everyone, I'm ASSEL Villanueva. The next lesson is the retraction letter of Dr. Jose Rizal. Upon Rizal's death, his supposed retraction letter became one of the most controversial documents in our history. This retraction letter allegedly contains his renunciation of the Masonry and his anti-Catholic religious ideas. Depending on whose side you are on, some Rizalists claims that it is fake, while some believe it to be genuine. There had been some evidences, but so far, this had only heated up the debate between the two factions. This letter was found by Father Manuel A. Gracia at the Catholic Hierarchy Archive in Manila. But the original document was never shown to the public, only reproductions of it. Jose Rizal's retraction controversy, many historians arguing whether Rizal retracted from what he had stated about the Catholic Church or not. From Rizal's statement, I retract with all of my heart whatever in my words, writings, publications, and conduct have been contrary to my character as a son of the Catholic Church. Some says that this document is a forgery and the other are asserting that it's authentic, and Rizal was the only who wrote and signed the retraction paper. There are arguments found that defend the both claims. But the only thing is, even Rizal retracted or not, the knowledge he inculcated to us will not change. According to Teodoro Calao, a professional on our hero's writings and other handwritings experts, the retraction was originally written by Rizal, and it has been judged by them through their deep study. There are also prominent Philippine historians who uphold the authenticity of Rizal's retraction, such as Nick Joaquin, Nicolas Safra, Gregorio Zaide, and many more. As of them, they consider the witnesses when Rizal wrote the retraction paper, signed the Book of the Prayers of the Catholic, and recited the prayers of the Catholic. Based on them, there were also people who saw him when he kissed the crucifix before the execution. Rizal was also said that he had his four confessions beheld by different qualified witnesses, newspapers, and historians, including the leader of the Spanish Supreme Court. Last hours of Rizal, December 30, 1896. At 3 o'clock a.m., Rizal heard Mass, confessed his sins, and took Holy Communion. At 5:30 a.m., he took his last breakfast, after which he wrote his last letters for his family and his brother Pasiano. Last hours of Rizal Martyrdom at Bagumbayan. During the last 24 hours of Rizal's life, he was meeting visitors in his cell in Fort Santiago, where he is secretly finishing his farewell poem. He is also destined to die for his beloved country, which he called Pearl of the Orient Seas in his poem and Pearl of the Orient in an article Unfortunate Philippines in the Hong Kong Telegraph on September 24, 1892. Next is Letter to Pasiano. Pasiano was a huge influence to Rizal's life. He would constantly send money to Spain and update his younger brother of the Friar's abuses in the Philippines through letters. He also supported the Katipunan and later on became one of the generals of its revolutionary army. Rizal letter to Pasiano. Now I am about to die, and it is to you I dedicate my last lines, to tell you how sad I am to leave you alone in life, burdened with the weight of the family and our old parents. Last hours of Rizal, December 30, 1896. At 5:30 a.m., Josephine Bracken arrived together with Rizal's sister, Josefa, with tears in her eyes, bade him farewell. Rizal embraced her for the last time, and before she left, Rizal gave her a last gift, religious book, Imitation of Christ, by Platter Thomas Kempis. At 6 o'clock a.m., as the soldiers were getting ready for the death march to Bagumbayan, Rizal wrote his last letter to his beloved parents. First is Letter to his father. He is Francisco Engracio Rizal Mercado y Alejandro. My beloved father, pardon me for the pain with which I repay you for sorrows and sacrifices for my education. I did not want it nor did prefer it. Goodbye, father, goodbye. Letter to his mother. To my very dear mother, Señora Doña Deodora Alonso, 6 o'clock in the morning, December 30, 1896. Death March to Bagumbayan. At 6:30 a.m., a trumpet sounded at Fort Santiago at the signal to begin the death march to Bagumbayan. Rizal walked calmly with his defense counsel and 2 Jesuits priced at his sides. He was dressed elegantly in a black suit, black derby hat, black shoes, white shirt, and black tie. His arms were tied behind from elbow to elbow. There are a lot of spectators lining the street from Fort Santiago to Bagumbayan. As he was going through the narrow Postigo gate, Rizal looked at the sky and said to one of the priests, "How beautiful it is today, Father! What morning could be more serene? How clear is Corregidor and the mountains of Cavite! On mornings like this, I used to take a walk with my sweetheart." While he was passing in front of the Ateneo, he saw the college towers above the walls. He asked, "Is that the Ateneo, Father?" "Yes," replied the priest. Several of the spectators lining the street from Fort Santiago to Plaza del Palacio in front of the Manila Cathedral. A vast crowd gathered at Bagumbayan to witness how a martyr dies. At the Bagumbayan field, the spectators crowded a huge square formed by the soldiers, where the cavalcade entered the square, and Rizal walked serenely to the place where he was told to stand at a grass lawn at the shore of Manila Bay, between 2 lamp posts. And that's all. Thank you for listening. Now let's proceed to the next reporter.
And I'm DAGUIL Rizal. Next lesson is about Martyrdom of a Hero. Rizal bade farewell to Fathers March and Villa Clara and to his defender Lieutenant Luis Tabil de Andrade. Although his arms were tied, he had firmly clasped their hands in parting. So by 6:30 a.m., Rizal's march to Bagumbayan commenced. He in his black suit, black necktie, black hat, black shoes, and white vest calmly walked from his present cell in Fort Santiago to the execution site with Lieutenant Tabil de Andrade on one side and Father Stanislaw March and Jose Villa Clara on the other side. They walked behind 4 advance guards armed with bayonets. As you can see, Jose Rizal was tied behind from elbow to elbow, although he still had the freedom to move his arms. In his right arm was a rosary which he kept on holding until his final breath. Meters before the execution place, a number of spectators awaited Rizal. During his long march, Rizal saw familiar faces and places, and he spent his time reminiscing his childhood, the fun he had with his family and friends. One of the priests blessed him and offered him a crucifix to kiss. So in the Bagumbayan field, Rizal shook the hands of the 2 priests and his defender to bending them farewell. A priest blessed and offered him a crucifix which he gently kissed. He requested the commander of the firing squad that he be shot facing them. His request was denied, for the captain had implicit orders to shoot him at his back. So the one request of Rizal that he want to shot facing the firing squad. However, in vain, since the captain of the squad ordered a back shot. As such, Rizal had no choice but to turn his back. A Spanish military physician, which is Dr. Felipe Ruiz Castillo, was amazed that Rizal's vital signs are normal, particularly his pulse rate. So, it's showing that Jose Rizal was not afraid to die. The dead ruffles of the drums filled the air. Above the drum beats, the sharp command fire was heard, and the guns of the firing squad barked. Rizal, with supreme effort, turned his bullet-riddled body to the right, and fell on the ground dead with face upward facing the morning sun. It was exactly 7:03 in the morning at age of 35 years old, 5 months and 11 days. Martyrdom of a Hero Martyrdom at Bagumbayan. So the firing squad was commanded in unison with drum beats. Upon the brisk command fire, the guns of the squad flared, and Rizal, by his sheer effort and remaining energy, twisted his body around to face the firing squad, and so fell on the ground with his face towards the blue sky, his head slightly inclined towards the rising sun in the east. What can be heard from the crowd of Spaniards was their loud, audible voice shouting, "Long live Spain, death to traitors." Jose Rizal died dead at the age exactly 7:03 in the morning of December 30. At the evening before his execution, Rizal wrote his final poem on a single paper, that revealing his strong nationalism and unwavering love for his country, which is the last farewell. I die just when I see the dawn break, through the gloom to herald the day, and if colors lacking, my blood thou shalt take, poured out at need for thy sake, to die with it. This poem is about his impending death, as he wanted to honor his homeland. the pre-Hispanic Philippines for which he was giving his life. He also used the poem to say goodbye to his friends, family, and loved ones. Rizal hid the poem in an alcohol stove for his family members to find. And also poem is about how beautiful the Philippines is, how Rizal wants us to learn from our past and to see the truth about how the world view us. It is interesting to know that 40 years before his execution, Rizal predicted that he would die on December 13th, and he was then a medical student in Madrid, Spain. There can be no tyrants where there are no slaves. So Rizal was his injunction to his people, and today in the Philippines there can be no tyrants, because there are none who would accept slavery or oppression. As long as we love freedom, we shall honor Rizal.